Ladies and gentlemen, it is my profound honor, absolute privilege, to present the Woods Hole Centennial Medal to Dr. Sylvia Earle, a scientist.
Thank you.
But wait, there's more.
Can't be more.
Yuko, come. Sylvia, this is my wife, Yuko. She has no idea I'm doing this.
Nice to meet you. Yuko.
So honored to meet you.
About 6 months ago, Yuko was in Tokyo, went to a store called Taya. It's in Ginza in Tokyo. She liked their ties so well. It's the best silk in the world, the best weavers of silk in the world. But she said, would you do something special for today? So Yuko, working with our scientists, designed this tie with 3 of their artists over about 3 months, figuring out what order these guys are supposed to go in, because that's not trivial. You can't get it wrong around here, right? And was made for the leadership team and for our Centennial medalists.
Oh my goodness. How beautiful. Fantastic. I'm going to start just with this image of the blue planet next to the red one, with the observation that if you had to choose which one to have for your home, I think it's kind of no contest. But there are some who are wanting to go to the red planet. And when you think about in the 20th century and now into the 21st, the amount of time, effort, resources that have been going into going up in the sky as compared to those who are looking at exploring the blue planet, I just wish I could reverse the sums, or at least have a little better balance. I'm all for going to the moon, going to Mars, to the universe beyond. But that blue place, that's part of the universe too. A really important part of the universe from a human standpoint. And I sincerely hope that as we go forward into the next decade, century, millennium, and beyond, that this institution will continue to be supported by those who really do want to go high in the sky, but really wish to put their effort going deep in the sea. And with respect to those who want to go to Mars, I've got my list. Maybe you have a list too. This planet, the blue one, is currently in a bit of trouble. And the gentleman, Johann Rockström, that you see here is a kindred spirit and working from the Potsdam Institute in Germany with his colleagues, taking information, much of it gathered at this institution, trying to crunch the numbers and come up with some calculation about what makes Earth special, what are the characteristics that hold this planet in a state that is suitable for the likes of us, planetary boundaries, the amount of warming that the planet can endure and still be tolerable for us. The acidification of the ocean is a newly recognized boundary that has recently been transgressed. What are the limits? What are those features, those measurable aspects that make us safe in a universe that we know is not very friendly to the likes of us? These boundaries are really based on characteristics that are measurable, but there's certainly one element that we have yet to learn so much about the ocean. It's difficult to measure what you can't really define. And since we've only explored, I don't know what the numbers are, Is it 5%, 10%, 1%, or 0.3% of the ocean has been really explored? Much of what has been explored, again, credit to this institution, over the years that scientists have been out on, around, and under the sea, taking measurements, defining what we now know about what makes Earth habitable, and recognizing that we are pushing the envelope. But good news is we have time, not a lot. 5 years, 10 years, we don't really know exactly, but we do know that Earth is experiencing this, a decline of the very characteristics that make every breath that we take now at risk, every drop of water that we take for granted. Well, things are changing. Can we hold the kind of steadiness over the last 10,000 years that caused our species to prosper? I mean, we've been around more or less over the last million years, up and down with differences in the state of the planet. But during this miraculous stability, where our species has grown from a few thousand to a few million to 500 million by 1500, a whole billion by 1800. When I came along, there were 2 billion people. Imagine this auditorium, if we just shrunk it down to the proportion of people on the planet, there'd be a lot of space for more. But now we have 8 billion. 4 billion by 1980. We're on a rocket in terms of our apparent prosperity. But that prosperity has come at a cost. About half of the land has been converted to grow food, plants and animals to feed us. And the ocean has also, not through the whole span of time that we've taken food from the land, but mostly aggressively in the last century, the last half century, we've taken on the ocean. So, land and sea converted to human purposes, converting this nice, stable, wonderful environment that we've taken for granted. I certainly did as a kid, not imagining, along with everybody else, that I or my species could possibly do anything to alter the nature of nature, to have actions that would cause the planet to rapidly begin warming. Actually, not begin warming, because we've been warming gradually since the top of the last ice age, 21 or so thousand years ago. But then we're rocketing forward, changing the nature of nature, changing the temperature more rapidly than was happening through natural forces alone. So we're right in the midst of this incredible time of change. And the speed of change is really exceeding the speed of the natural living systems that make our existence possible to kind of catch up and stay in a way that is stable. We're seeing ups and downs more frequently than in our history. And just since I began exploring the ocean as a kid scientist back in the 1950s, when I first had a chance to use scuba with 2 words of instruction: breathe naturally. That was it. And I witnessed the changes in coral reefs. About half have disappeared, along with about half the coral reefs, the kelp forests and seagrass meadows and mangroves, and even those pastures, those forests in the sea that generate much of the oxygen in the atmosphere, capture much of the carbon. They too are in a state of decline. And we didn't really know enough when I was a young scientist to understand the consequences that when plankton in the sea declines the way forests that have been clear-cut, we have been clear-cutting the ocean of life. We didn't really intend to affect the phytoplankton, but because, just as on the land, there's cycles of life. There's no real excess. There's no real waste. What in nature is, at least we call waste, is immediately cycled into other forms of life. We've kind of created that concept, but in nature, there's a lot of eat and being eaten going on. The phytoplankton, consumed by the zooplankton, the young critters of all kinds of creatures. It's like a big nursery out there. Brian Scurry and I have just teamed up with National Geographic to do a little book for kids called Sea Babies, so that you understand somehow that water in the ocean is not just water and salt, rocks. It's a living system. And every one of those little zooplankters gobbles up something or somebody, just as we do as animals, but they give nutrients back to the system. It powers the phytoplankton, and it just goes round and round and round, producing nitrates and phosphates and all those things that the phytoplankton, in addition to carbon dioxide and sunlight, require for their proliferation. It's so great to be out in the ocean. It's like diving into the history of life on Earth. You see creatures that have literally no counterpart on terrestrial or freshwater systems. The ocean has the greatest diversity and abundance of life in the universe, I could say. As far as we know, it's just here, the blue planet, that has at least the diversity of life. I mean, there aren't any elephants on Mars or whales. We have this unique zoo of creatures that populate the Earth with us. And diving into the ocean, you get to see the food chains in action. It's an eat and be eaten world, and the great thing is to try to get there and observe it and document it and not be a part of it. So, there it is. I had the opportunity to meet with Bill Anders, the astronaut who was a young scientist astronaut. Took this picture. He said it's his favorite picture, not the one of Earthrise from the moon, but this one, the blue face of the planet. And right now, expeditions are underway with the Polynesian voyagers who, for thousands of years, have taken off across the Pacific using the stars, the currents, looking at birds, looking at fish, whales for signs of where they are. It's getting trickier as they go forward. They've just launched a new series of expeditions across the Pacific with the heart, the head of the expeditions, not in Hawaii, but rather in Tahiti, with those tentacles reaching places where people have lived for very long periods of time. One of the things that has become evident from the heart, the head of the octopus in Tahiti, is that how much has changed the nature of the ocean in recent times. Noah Thompson, who's been involved with restoring the heritage of wayfinding across the Pacific, recently made an expedition aboard the Hokulea craft that is the vessel that replicates those ancient voyaging canoes. As they crossed the Pacific from Hawaii to Tahiti, there were times, there were so many squid fleets with their bright lights illuminating the ocean to capture squid by the ton, that they couldn't see the stars. The birds were going further offshore, disoriented, because the food that they normally get, which include squid, small fish, they're simply gone. We've managed, we humans, in the last half century or so, to extract so much life from the ocean that the creatures who've been there long before there were humans are having a hard time finding their groceries and are going further offshore and not having enough to keep their systems going. This is a moment in time when around the world we're getting signals from nature that our actions are really giving them great distress. There's some good news. When I was a child, there were fewer whales than there are today. It's great news to know that when we stop the killing and start the caring, recovery can take place. We have a long way to go. We have adopted not just habits and laws, but just this expectation that the ocean can continue to be the source of what we wish to take out of it without seeming limits. As I witnessed in Australia back in 1979, 6 young sperm whales being converted to oil and meat and bone, to the present time when whalers are not celebrated as the heroes that they once were regarded as, but rather the whales themselves are regarded as the heroes, learning about their culture, their language, their role, like another civilization out there in the ocean. We did not know before, did not care before. But today, you can say, since 1986, when across the planet, nations came together to stop the industrial taking of whales, all of them. But we haven't stopped with other creatures that also have a long history that preceded humans and now are down at historic lows, just as whales were. When I first had a chance to go splashing around in the ocean with tunas, seeing them on their own terms. It's happening with sharks. I don't know any reason why. Well, sorry, Peter Benchley. You really had some impact on sharks so that people were afraid to take a shower, go into the bathtub, because, it's wet and there could be sharks out there. But I don't know, again, what the numbers are. Is it 80%, 90%? For some species, it's down to half of 1% are gone because of the biggest predator that the planet has ever known, our ability to harness technology that cuts both ways. We know more now, early in the 21st century, than at any time in the history of our species. But at the same time, we've lost more. Squid, these miracles, they have giant neural system down their back. They have enormous eyes, structured much like our own, although coming up through a very different ancestry. Mollusks, here we are as vertebrates, but what they see is much like what we see. They probably see better, but not see well enough to avoid the giant fleets that now are illuminating the oceans around the world. And now we know that variations on the theme of, quotes, pollution in the ocean, we know about the avalanche of plastic that now is largely derived from the industrial fishing that has grown since the middle of the 20th century. Something like 80% of the plastic and other debris in the ocean comes from discarded and lost fishing gear. It keeps fishing. And, well, going all the way to Antarctica to capture these little guys, krill. They are like the next in line. First, it was seals 200 years ago in the 1820s when Antarctica was first sighted by sealers, the continent. And now, fast forward to the 21st century, actions were taken in the 50s to safeguard the continent by international agreement. But they kind of forgot about the ocean. And there's much to be done right now to safeguard the ocean, from seals to birds, to whales, and then fish. Think orange roughy, think so-called Chilean sea bass. Think the deep sea fish taken from Antarctic waters that have never been on anyone's menu until post-mid-20th century. but now are really shrinking in numbers owing to our great ability to find, capture, and market ocean wildlife by the ton. And now, on the horizon, deep sea mining. I mean, I attend a lot of conferences, and I attend a lot of conferences among the fish. Wherever I go, I get the same message. We have to protect the ocean. We have to protect the deep sea, the high seas. Glory be, just this past year, and just a few weeks ago, enough nations ratified a treaty to safeguard at least 30% of the high seas. But why are we considering deep sea mining at all? We need to safeguard and keep in place those natural living systems that make our existence possible. To safeguard the stability that we once had. I know, stability with ups and downs, but within a range that is suitable for us, that has enabled us to prosper. But we are just beginning to recognize the true costs of our prosperity. And if we are to be sort of safe, have a safe place for us within these systems, we have to think about those deep sea systems that aren't just dead zones, as some are saying. They're loaded with life, continuing this eat and be eaten realm where nutrients continue to get cycled and have been doing so for hundreds of millions of years. But on our watch, destabilizing these systems, causing disruptions to these ancient rhythms, we need to protect the blue heart of the planet, which is exactly what I know Woods Hole has been active in taking the knowledge and turning it into action to support those efforts that are protective, but they must be grounded in first knowledge, exploration, the science. It gives us the ability to see and understand what we're doing and to recognize the magnitude of our ignorance. Hope spots are places, there are now 160 some places around the world with champions, communities, sometimes countries signing on to support this idea, a network of hope grounded in science, using much of the information derived from this institution since its beginning that are vital to really understand who we are, where we've come from, and I think most importantly, where are we going? I love submarines. I've used more than 30 different kinds of submarines exploring the ocean over the years. I have to say, Peter, I haven't been in Alvin yet, except on the ground. I'm waiting for my opportunity to get out there and explore deep in the sea. But I've had the fun of taking people, including the Minister of the Environment from Ecuador, on a dive off the coast of the Galapagos. It was his area of jurisdiction. He's a diver, but he'd never been deep. A little apprehensive when he went down. But when we got down to the bottom, it was dark. It was, that little sub that we used goes to 500 meters. So we can get down into the twilight zone. That is one of those areas that is now being targeted for aggressive extraction of wildlife. Leave it alone. Let it do its thing, cycling nutrients, capturing carbon, feeding tuna and squid and other creatures. Well, here, a creature came up, whispered in the minister's ear, "Take care of the ocean, as if your life depends on it," because it does. I've had the pleasure of knowing Al Vine and appreciate something of what it took to get the Alvin actually built and funded, and still now, years after Alvin was first launched in 1964 through many iterations, including a new pressure hull that enables Alvin to go all the way down 6,000 meters. I've had the pleasure of being on the board of Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Actually, I first came here in 1965. I met Paul Fye. I met Alvin, and I did not meet his mother, Lulu, but I did have a chance to use the support vessel named Lulu that supported Alvin, and to use it during an underwater living operation. I've had the chance to do that now 10 times, and lots of time splashing around as just a scuba diver, thousands of hours, but we need to go deep. We need to take everyone here in this room and as many others as can possibly be convinced to go, like the minister, go see for yourself. Diving, being there, is measurably different. We need all of the instruments like going high in the sky, but we still have astronauts. We still need that human presence. We need to get to the heart and soul of why we need to go. I've been working with my daughter, my son-in-law, and various clever engineers to develop little submarines called HONU that we launched 2 of them in French Polynesia, the head of the octopus, sometime in 2026. You're all invited, of course. The idea is to have something that even a kid can safely go down to at least 1,200 meters, not as deep as Alvin goes. The deepest part of the ocean was one of those places like the moon that nobody could get to until 1960 and 2012, and now new systems are coming along. I tried to convince WHOI to take Alvin during its rebuild to go all the way to the deepest part. That's probably coming someday soon. Stand by. Here we are, 21st century humans. I tell kids, you are a 21st century human. You're the luckiest ever to exist because of what we now know that we couldn't know before. And we still have time. Not a lot, but this is our time. We now can change this trajectory of decline to recovery. You're sitting in an institution that has not only been one of the most important institutions globally for exploring this blue planet and to take care of it so that 5 years, 10 years, a century from now, or 5,000 years from now, there will be people meeting like this to discuss the future of what can be done to maintain a safe place in the universe for human beings and fish and whales and squid and krill and all of those other creatures who make our existence possible. Thank you.
Thank you.